Today, I want to talk about generosity a little bit. In my high school economics classes over the last, I want to say, 4 years, one of the projects that I do is a personal finance and budgeting project, trying to teach basic financial skills, literacy, saving, staying out of debt, all these, what I believe to be hugely important skills that aren't taught in high school, aren't taught in college. And through this project, I've noticed a trend that I can't say applies to everybody, but it's a trend that I found kind of concerning and disturbing over the last few years over a cross-section of students. And I'm not saying that this trend applies to everything and everyone in every circumstance, or that everybody who has been part of this trend continues to feel this way, or wasn't being a little bit extreme in their exaggerations. However, in this project, I have people put together a budget for month, that it takes into account their costs, their rent, their phone, their internet, all this stuff, figure out what that costs, how to pay for it, how to save, all these other things. I always include a category for charity, for giving to others, for planning to give to others in advance. And this category is almost never used. I want to say by like 4 people in 4 years, and I can't point to even specific instances, but most people, when I even suggest such a thing, have a strong moral aversion to it. They react negatively. In having this conversation during lecturing, talking about this, I simply recommend that people build into their habits with money: give, save, spend. Give, save, spend. Not original to me. But even the recommendation to this, students are repulsed by this, because I mentioned giving to others, considering others as a first principle. And I even tell them, look, you have an absolute right not to give to others, as far as I'm concerned, as far as a legal right, in a sense that nobody can compel you to give, because that takes the nature out of giving itself. I would never require that of someone. And I don't believe that you purchase your right to exist through your giving or lack of giving to others. That being said, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good thing to do, to orient your mind to focus on others and consider others even in your finances. And so I recommended maybe give 10%. And this could be to a charity, to individuals, to friends, family, whatever people in need that you come across, or you save up to be able to do that in the future, or maybe to a church or religion. And then 20% saved, 70% spent. Just numbers came up with off the top of my head and thinking through it a little bit. But the reaction against giving was so immediate and so strong, and it is every year when I have this or similar discussions. People are morally repulsed. They are disgusted by the idea that they personally should look out for other people, should donate to other people, should give money to causes that they believe in. Now, I don't believe they hold this view consistently or all the time, but there is an irony in it, because they feel a moral sense of supremacy. They feel a moral high ground in supporting politicians who want to give through a political means. That is through taxing, debt, or printing. That these politicians who offer to give them the world, something for nothing, that is the right, righteous, and moral, ethical thing to do, and that their support of them makes them feel like good people. But come down to the personal lives and merely suggest 10% giving or less, up to them, totally voluntary. People are disgusted by this. They're repulsed by it. And this shows, I think, a moral shift in our culture. That morality no longer has to do with person to person as an individual, being responsible for yourself and those around you, and that it is your moral duty to care for your fellow man on an individual level, not a legal level. But there's been a shift to now where people feel moral in voicing support for, opinion for people who offer to give them something for free through political and legal means, and then totally abandon the idea of caring for others, even in finances. And so I think what I'm pointing out here is simply an inconsistency that I think needs to be built in and ought to return this level of personal responsibility in this area. And this is why I emphasize giving. And I will continue to do so despite the reaction that it gets, because in doing so, it stems the tide of the argument that since individuals have failed, now we need a more powerful entity, the state, to force people to do what they morally would be unwilling to do.